Despite what their moms told them, they just aren't talented enough for radio. Unfortunately, anyone can have a show these days. Sean.
Well, I'm pretty hard to figure out sometimes. In fact, I can't even figure myself out sometimes, so don't you try to.
Joe.
You're an idiot and really a disloyal person.
This is the Cuse Militia. Now, those two unapologetically biased, orange-blooded homers, Sean and Joe.
It's the most bullshit thing I've seen in 30 years.
Welcome, orange men and ladies. Happy Tuesday. This is the Cuse Militia with Sean and Joe at Cuse Militia on the socials. Go there. Join the militia. Thank you, all of you, for hanging out with us. This is your Rutgers Preview. We'll let you know what we think as we head into that game, as well as look at last week's predictions, and we'll, of course, give you our always accurate predictions for the game against Rutgers in the Dome. Going to be playing in the Dome with fans for the first time in about a year and a half or so, give or take. And kickoff will be at 2 o'clock on Saturday. So I'm going to watch that game, and then I'm going to hightail it, hopefully to Richmond, and watch the race. That's where I'm headed Saturday.
That's a good plan.
It's a packed day. That's a packed day for me. Hopefully, I'll be well prepared to do the show on Sunday. I will.
We're doing Logan's 9th birthday party at 4 o'clock on Saturday at her sister's house.
Who planned that?
Ooh, not me. I'll tell you that.
Oh,
so,
lordy.
Yeah, so I don't know if I will be live. I'm trying to contemplate if I want to do the first half and then catch it up when I get out there.
Gotta be
recorded.
I was thinking about the same thing, because if I gotta leave early, it takes about an hour and a half to get to Richmond.
Yeah, I just don't want to wait. I think I'm gonna watch the first half, man. I can't wait for those fans. I can't wait to watch that. Like we talked about. What is it? It's September 11th, right?
It is
20-year anniversary.
Yes.
We're talking about New York, New Jersey, with Syracuse and Rutgers on the line. Shiano, old rivalry, recruiting on the line. So many things on top of the fact that it's the first time that
Big
a lot
10.
of these players on this team, well, it's a Big Ten team.
ACC challenge.
Right, and the first time that a lot of these players on this team has been in the Loud House with a Loud House. So I'm pumped, and I don't think I can just tape that and watch it later. So I'm probably going to have to watch at least the first half and get out there and figure it out.
Well, if I've got to go on the road with the phone, I will. But anyway, it's going to be a packed Saturday for me. I'm very excited, and get to not for anything. I know some people couldn't care less about me talking about NASCAR, but you want to talk about a sport that does it right when it comes to tributes and patriotism and just being patriotic in general.
Oh yeah, I want to be there too.
NASCAR does it right. That's going to be one hell of a race. I will never forget the race after 9/11 at Dover. That following week, with Dale Jr. winning that thing and bringing the flag around the track. So 20 years, and I remember exactly where I was. I'm sure all of us do.
Yeah,
if you were alive, I remember exactly what I was doing. I remember exactly what happened. I remember being just flattened and confused, and what a terrible, terrible day. So
sadly, my story isn't podcast rated. So
mine's not really either, but maybe some other time. Deuce Chestnut, he became was granted the honors of co-rookie of the week in the ACC. So he's going to split duties with someone from, what was it, Georgia Tech or Wake Forest, right?
Oh, I don't know. I was actually hoping you had this. I wanted to see what the stats were of the guy that he shared with. Had to have been an offensive guy.
It was shared the honors Jasheen Davis of Wake Forest, who had 1.5 sacks, a defensive. It sounds like a linebacker, I'm guessing. 1.5 sacks and 2.5 tackles for loss against ODU. Jasheen Davis. Okay. Anyways, excellent. I hate this split duty stuff, but that's still a good performance against a comparable team.
100%.
I'll take it. I mean, for both of them, this is a good performance by both of them being rookies. So, Just in reflecting on the week that was week 1 of the NCAA football season, the official week 1 of the NCAA football
Great
season.
week.
It was an excellent week of football. It was an excellent week of fandom, as we mentioned. Our boy Gio hit me up and said he heard us talking about the Enter Sandman with the crowd jumping around, and that has gone like absolutely apeshit viral. That video, which was amazing,
and he got to experience that.
He experienced it. He was there in the student section. Jeez, Louise, how amazing would that be? And there's talks, there's rumblings. That Cuse Waterboy was throwing it out there on Twitter, and I'm thinking about myself going October 23rd. I already let my wife know that I'm thinking about it, so we'll have to see if that comes to fruition. I'm probably about 5 hours away from there. It's quite a ways away in Blacksburg, but could be worth a trip. You never know. So
you're gonna get me up there, bud.
Yeah, I realize that. As I was saying, the week that was, Joe, looking back, you had some losses. You had Florida State.
No, well, what Thursday night you started with NC State in Florida. I had a bunch of buddies at the house or at the work that were going there, and actually they have a pretty good video too. They did Amazing Grace with bagpipes and the band and everything for the fallen soldiers of Afghanistan. 13 they lost their lives here recently, so that was pretty good. And NC State came out and they beat South Florida 45-0 to get the ACC started. They looked strong. Zonovan Knight and Ricky Person, Devin Leary, those boys are going to be tough. I'm going to tell you that right now. And the defense looked really good too. Shut them out. So
yeah, Duke loses, Georgia Tech loses, Louisville loses, Clemson loses, UNC loses, and I mean, you got half of the ACC. Well, I understand.
Yeah,
but
it's tough because you have Clemson who plays Georgia, and that ended up being a 10-3 game, and really that just proves that Clemson and Georgia's defenses are legit, and they just got to figure out their offense. We knew Alabama was going to beat Miami. As far as Duke and Charlotte, that was Duke and Charlotte on Friday night was one that got me. Wake Forest pretty much held on to ODU on Friday night, and that was the night where North Carolina lost to Virginia Tech at Virginia Tech. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that North Carolina lost 2 receivers and 2 running backs in the NFL last year. And Sam Howell, he had a rough game because he is lacking a lot of playmakers out there, and they're going to have to figure that out. But Friday night when I watched Duke and Charlotte, that was a great game. Not in the way that you would think of 2 great teams, but just the way that it ended. Charlotte was beating Duke by 3 with like under 2 minutes to go, and Duke just busted out this run. And I'm like, oh, of course, Duke's going to save themselves. Well, they left a little bit too much time on the clock, and Charlotte went down and scored a touchdown, and that was pretty much a wrap. So that Friday night was pretty fun, too, to see some of these teams lose. And to see some of these teams that these teams lost to, I'm kind of confident to say that Syracuse is not going to be the worst team in the ACC for sure. Well,
and we're going to get into this in our Rutgers preview. But, yeah, I would have to agree. Just, and it's early, obviously, but you've got to go with what you know. And what we know is what we saw last week. By the way, Deuce Chestnut, according to Mike McAllister over at Sports Illustrated SI, our SI Syracuse, was also honored by Sports Illustrated as top freshman defense performance in the country week 1. So just to clarify that, besides the whole ACC thing. So anyways. All right, look, let's get into this Rutgers preview. I know this is kind of this is the old Big East rivalry, and we've got some history here dating back all the way to 1914. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the Spotify Green Room app. Go there, okay? Please, for the love of Pete, go there. Download the app. It's free. You need a username, an email address, and a password. Get yourself signed up. Follow us at Sean Space Cuse Militia. I actually have the good link on Facebook. For whatever reason, the same link, copy and pasted to Twitter, does not work. No idea why, but if you have trouble, DM us or go to Facebook, and you follow us right there from the app. So download the app first, hit the link. This is a place where you can gather with other listeners and you can sit in the green room. You guys can chat back and forth. You can request to speak. We can have you on live for fan feedback. This is what we want to use. Love using Twitter, love using Facebook, love using the written stuff, but obviously to get you on the show and just cut it up would be a ton of fun for us. I think this is a good way to do it. It's pretty easy to use, and like I said, it's free, so go there, download that. The Green Room, Spotify Green Room app, iOS or Android stores, it's free. Go there. Clear some storage out. Do something. Download the damn app. Okay, so Joe, Syracuse is currently a 2.5-point underdog against Rutgers. Okay, the two teams first met, as I mentioned, in 1914. That game would result in a tie. The only tie of the series, the overall series, sits at 30-12-1 in favor of the Orange. However, the Scarlet Knights have taken 7 of the last 10. The last 3 of those being, I think, within 8 points. I think down to 3. So, last 3 matchups pretty close. The last one in 2012, Rutgers won 23-15 at home. The Scarlet Knights, they just beat Temple 61-14 with the defense coming up big with 5 total turnovers, including an interception return for a touchdown. They started out their scoring with the defense putting 2 points on the board with a safety. The rushing attack of Rutgers versus Temple totaled 220 yards and 6 touchdowns. A lot of that, though, was set up by these turnovers by the defense. Overall, Rutgers outgained Temple in total yards by a margin of 365 to 261. They averaged 4.5 yards per carry on the ground, and they totaled 21 to 12 on the first down advantage. So, a lot of this stuff on offense was set up by the defense. They finished 3-6 last year. Quarterback Noah Vedral, I guess it is, right? Am I right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Finished with 1,253 yards through the air last year, 9 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. He can use his feet to make plays. He does run, but writers and fans alike, from just doing my research, they're not totally sold on this guy from what I've seen. I've got mixed reviews at best for Vedral. So coming into this game, I guess Joe will tell us a little more, but Joe, Rutgers, they've have plenty of returning players with experience coming back this year, as many teams do. But I have to say, like I said, after doing the research that I did within the past couple of days, despite the 61-14 stomping at Temple, their offense doesn't scare me that much. As long as the Orange can take care of the ball, and I feel like they can. I feel like they have a good shot. I mean, like a really good shot. My hopes have been totally turned around after doing the research and really looking at their writings. I went over to the Rutgers SB Nation page, and, their defense looked good against Temple. That's the one thing that's a little scary. If anything, this is a defensive battle, maybe, at the end of the day, and the last defense to make a big play, it could be the difference maker. But what did you see?
Yeah, I kind of was right there with you. When I first saw the score 61-14, I was like, whoa, their offense must be really good.
Yeah.
They put up a whole bunch of points, right? And then I went back last night, actually, and watched the 26-minute version of the game, which is a majority of the plays, to be able to sit down and actually look at it. And when you go back and look at it, again, this is a team that, like you said, started out with a safety. Ended up getting 5 turnovers. They had 1 interception. They got tackled inside the 5. Another interception, like you said, got returned to the house, and that was after things were all kind of said and done.
And then 3 fumbles.
3 fumbles, and they also had 2 different kickoff returns that Aaron Cruikshank returned inside the other team's 50-yard line. So the starting field position, I mean, I don't know exactly what it is, but or what it was for the game. The starting field position was crazy. Now, they didn't really – to me, it's I don't really know if it hit a certain point where they didn't open up the playbook and if they're just being vanilla, or if, again, it's the quarterback situation. Noah Vedral, he led the team with 58 yards rushing on 8 carries. And he, just like Tommy DeVito, made the right moves. He was 15 for 27 for 138 yards and a touchdown, which really that's overinflated because one of those receptions was Bo Melton taking a 5-yard curl for 40-yard touchdown. So realistically, you take that off the board, and he kind of pretty much put up what Tommy did. So offensive-wise, it kind of looked exactly like what our offense was. It was a team that knew that they could dominate at the line. They had a bunch of running backs, starting with Pacheco, Aaron Young, and Kyle Manange. Those guys all had 4 rushing touchdowns, respectively. And then they also have their utility knife do-it-all, Johnny Langan, who his number's 21. His position is quarterback, but he pretty much plays quarterback, running back,
Receiver,
fullback, tight end. He'll split them out. He had 2 touchdowns in the Wildcat on the goal line where they just snapped it to him. And, so the good thing, well, not for us, but for Rutgers, is they were very efficient in the red zone. They had really good starting position, but I don't really think that they proved that they can open up their passing attack down the field and actually sustain long drives. So when you look at the way that this game ended up, it was kind of, I felt like, the same way as us. And to be perfectly honest with you, Temple, with their quarterback, DeJuan Mathis, he started seeing some things near the end of the second quarter and going into the third quarter. They scored a touchdown at the end of the second quarter. They came out of the third quarter and scored a touchdown. And at one point, they had the game at 20. It was 14-26. And when they scored the touchdown to get to 14, DeJuan Mathis actually injured his foot because he ran in the touchdown. That was their starting quarterback, and he actually got hurt. So for the last quarter and a half, they got him to a down 12. And then they went to their second-string quarterback, who only threw the ball 3 times for a whole quarter and a half. So at that point, when that starting quarterback got hurt, it was pretty obvious that Rutgers was going to win that game, and you could tell Temple kind of got a little defeated. So going back and looking at it, I don't really take away a lot. I can't really tell how good Rutgers really is. They have 3 capable running backs for sure, along with Johnny Langan, who, again, made himself.
Bo Melton, though.
Well, and that's the thing, right? So Bo Melton and Aaron Cruikshank. Aaron Cruikshank was the guy that had the returns. He only had 1 catch, he had 1 rush.
3 receptions for 24.
Right. But he had, where are the returns? Kick returns, 4 kick returns for 113 yards. His longest was 57. So that's where he helped the team. But Cruikshank and Bo Melton, those guys are home run hitters. And really, when you look at their running backs and you look at their specialty players, they look like a bold team, a bold offense. They have all their starters back from last year as far as on offense. It's really just how far can Noah Vedral take them. And again, he managed the game good enough and handed the ball off good enough, and their defense helped them out. I mean, five turnovers, 1 to the house, and the other one got taken down to the 2-yard line. I mean, they got all the help in the world from their defense and their special teams. So
yeah, absolutely.
Kudos for them putting up 61 points. But if that starting quarterback for Temple never got hurt, I'm telling you, they were starting to get a little bit of the momentum there. And there was a little bit of crack of a window of light. And then when he got hurt, I mean, you could just tell when that next quarterback came in that they had nothing for that Rutgers defense. And speaking of, what's up?
I was going to say, writer and fans alike, they are huge, as well they should be, on the defense and the special teams. Their offense, though, it is funny reading some of their stuff and just thinking about what we talked about Syracuse in the last game against Ohio, and that is that we still don't know. Well, they're in the same boat as us. They're still trying to figure their offense out. They're still trying to figure out if Vedral's even going to be the guy, really, to be honest with you, from the gist I get from comments and even some of the writers. So they're kind of in the same boat. But, of course, their defense is extremely good. Now, it's going to be a huge test, I think, for the line. And when we talk about this game just being a big test in general, I think it's the biggest test, obviously, for DeVito and this offensive line. And to start off, maybe, obviously, not opening this thing up all the way and testing the defensive line out. I mean, you're gonna.
I think they're gonna test everybody out, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. But you got to test. You got to dip your toes in the waters first, right? I mean, I feel like this is one of those games where you're gonna take a temperature before you go all buckshot on them. So.
Yeah, I think both teams are going to be nervous to be, they know it's to be 2-0, and they're going to be feeling each other out. And, I think that both teams, obviously, I think also hit a little bit of the playbook. So, we'll see. But I know as far as on offense goes, what's this? Alakuni Fatukasi?
Oh, yeah. Oh, Fakakasi. Yeah, totally.
Fatukasi. Yeah. No, he had 7 total tackles, 6 solo, 3 sacks.
He's their
4
guy,
for
by
a
the way.
loss.
Yeah, he's their guy.
Yeah, 4 tackles for losses. 6 out of his 7 tackles were solos, and 3 of them were for sacks. I mean, this is obviously their guy. That's the guy that we're going to obviously need to stay away from. But I did see Temple get some stuff down the middle, and I saw their corners got beat deep a couple times as well. And their running back, Edward Sadie, did have a little bit of he had a little bit of success when DeJuan Mathis was still in there. But
in our Bo Melton and Max Melton related?
I have no idea. I was actually wondering that the other day when I heard both their names.
Okay. Well, there's a good chance they might be.
Yeah. I mean, it's just there's a lot of it's the same thing. Like it's funny because it's like Rutgers and Syracuse, they almost feel like they're in the same position in like the conferences.
They really are.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
they really are.
And we go into this situation where, I mean, Temple and Ohio have both been traditionally okay, like decent for mid-major teams, and we both kind of dominate the games in different ways. Obviously, we would have scored more than 29 points if we had 5 turnovers, but there's like so many more questions than there are answers still, like we talked about. Yes, there were some answers, and I'm sure there were some answers for Scarlet Knight fans, but at the same time, it got to a point where they could just hand the ball off, and it really didn't even matter if they brought in the second string to see if he was better, right? So
why bother?
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting for sure to see what happens.
It is in one sense, on one side of it, I feel way more confident in this game as far as it goes for Syracuse, especially being at home with the fans and being able to have that. Something that I know the Syracuse players talked a lot about and are wildly looking forward to, as anyone would imagine. So to have that at your back and to be at home in the dome. No, these fans haven't seen the new dome either. I mean, this thing's been been unveiled for over a year now, and they haven't seen it. So I guess there was some lacrosse or something. I don't know, but you for the most part. I mean, I'm not poo-pooing that. I'm just saying that
they haven't seen it on a game day college football atmosphere, right?
Exactly.
Like that's
yeah. So with the team expecting that at their back, on the other side of this, like we said, huge game for both of these teams. As you mentioned, Joe, almost in the same exact spot in their conference. Almost in the same exact spot.
No, situations, right? I'm probably sure like the big dogs in both conferences, like, what are these 2 schools doing here?
Yeah.
They're in the Northeast. They're this, they're that.
Greg Schiano,
we're gonna pick them to finish last, right? Like,
yeah. And they have an excellent coach. I mean,
no, and that's what it's going to come down to, I think. I mean, it's one of 2 things, right? We would like to sit here and think, right? We want to be our own little armchair quarterbacks and think that, oh, yeah, well, I mean, we didn't break into the playbook. We were vanilla, right? As fans. That must not be all that we had, right? Against Ohio, right?
Right.
Like, that's the same thing that Rutgers fans are thinking.
Exactly.
Offensively and defensively.
Exactly.
And I think realistically, none of us know the answer except for probably the coaches, but the team that hid the most last Saturday and still got the W is probably the team that's going to be in a better advantage situation. And if it happens to be like they both hid about the same, then it's going to come down to coaching. I mean, those are really the 2 things this week is like, what did we not show the rest of the world and the other teams? And then coaching. That's going to be this week because both of these teams seem like very, very similar teams.
Well, seeing that now, obviously I can't speak to the Rutgers end of that, but I can speak to the Syracuse end of it in that I think we know this team pretty well, and we were both like, didn't see a whole lot, right? So, I mean, and there's a lot of Syracuse fans that I know
we want to think that.
We want to think
we will
that,
never
but
know the truth, right?
We won't know the truth until this weekend, but I've got to imagine that the cards were held not just close to the chest, but like maybe behind the shirt.
You can only hope.
Yeah, so
I'm only hoping that, right?
Yeah.
But we've seen situations where that's not the case.
Absolutely. And where we get a little bit too excited or a little bit too optimistic, which is a thing. Which is
the same thing that happens with basketball fans, right? Where they're like, "Oh, play this guy," and Boeheim's like, "Are you at practice?" Like, because I'm at practice and I see what.
Yeah, we go through that every year, by the way.
Right, but
yeah,
how many times are the fans right in that situation?
And that's a good point because I feel like I'm right, but
right now until we're proven wrong, we got to eat crow again.
Exactly, which is why we remain cautiously optimistic about the whole thing. So. Well, all right.
What do you think the percentages are that we see good old Garrett?
With the way, and I guess this is another conversation we could have. I mean, it's all speculation, but with the way that this defense played against Temple, because they weren't thinking that Temple was going to just roll over the way they did either. I mean, it wasn't it was kind of unexpected the way that game came, and I know that they were out of quarterback, but 61-14, that's an ass whooping. So I think,
but it didn't start.
I understand.
It didn't start so that quarterback went out.
Yeah, I know. So with that,
I mean, the turnovers were happening and all that stuff, but
in the safety, I mean, the defense was dominant in that game.
It got to the point in the game where Temple knew they weren't going to win.
Yeah, I mean, and defense was dominant. If they can be half as dominant against Syracuse as they were against Temple, then you could see Garrett Schrader fairly early. Like we said, I mean, Michael said it, and we reiterated it. I believe it was Michael, that DeVito's on a short leash. I mean, this is not time to play, and this is not the game to play. This is You've got two quarterbacks you can use. Schrader has another week under his belt of practice. He got his toes wet a little bit, which I don't know if that helped or hurt or whatever, but there's a reason Coach did what he did. And if he feels confident enough to put Schrader in, he's going to do it fairly early if he needs to. If not, well, I mean, it could be the same situation, Joe. It could be the same situation where this is a defensive battle. Tommy's handling the game fairly well. He's not making a lot of mistakes, and we don't even see Garrett Schrader. I mean, that's a possibility too. And then he says, well, we'll see you next week.
That's true. I mean, that's 100% true. I mean, there's a couple different things that go through my mind with that. And obviously, number one, we talked about it. They didn't make it black and white. Went with Tommy with loyalty, right? And Tommy didn't do anything to get himself pulled. He managed the game. And, I mean, I wouldn't turn around and say he's the reason we won the game. And honestly, I don't think that there's anybody out there that can say that, like, if Garrett Schrader went out there and started the whole game, that we might not have had more points. We'll never know.
We don't know, yeah.
But based upon everything that happened, I mean, it was 15-6 in the third quarter. It was still a game, and he stuck. He made a decision at a certain point to stick with Tommy because he wasn't making certain mistakes that he normally did.
It was a comfort thing.
Seemed confident, and at that point, you want to get the W. Yeah. And then it gets to a certain point where we're not beating them enough to bring in the next guy until obviously the last drive. But also at this point, do we really even want to bring in Schrader in a competitive state of a game to show the next team what he can do? So
yeah, and that's a possibility.
I'm sure there's little wrinkles and things that they have with Garrett Schrader that they don't run with DeVito, and it would be dumb in that type of game to bring him in there and reveal those plays. So
yeah. So basically, everything we just said is a possibility, which is just about every possibility you can imagine. But I mean, I just don't know. Yeah. I don't have a solid answer. I mean, I could see it going both ways, and I just. But
Tommy didn't win the game.
No, the defense won that game.
I'm the reason why.
And Sean Tucker did a pretty damn good job. The offensive line did a pretty damn good job.
But that's what I'm saying is that there's probably possibly 3 quarterbacks on this roster that could have won that game.
That's true because I mean you're looking at 92 yards passing through the air, and a lot of it dink and dunk, and he missed every long one that he threw.
That's what I'm saying, right? I mean, if you can't go 11-17 for 92 yards,
then you don't need to be playing D1,
level, right? I mean, that's and I'm not. That's not to poo-poo. It was a lot because we got to go with what's going on. We got to go with what's working, and both offenses were really running the clock out. So,
when you got one guy tearing up the field for 181 yards on the ground, I mean,
what would be that, 280 combined or something like that?
Something
Like
283 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So when you're running like that, why show anything else? Like, there's no, you don't want to rub it in. Just keep your tricks in your back pocket. And even looking at, I mean, both of our first games were similar. So I mean, it's going to come down to, like what I said, it's going to come down to coaching and what both teams got to hide. I mean, Noah Vedral, he was 15 for 27 for 138. So he threw a lot more passes than Tommy.
With a 40-yard pass in there.
With the 40-yarder to Bo Melton. Like I said, I mean, that's like a one-on-one curl, and Bo Melton caught it, and he basically spun to the outside when the corner went in, missed the tackle, and the guy's fast enough to go and make a play. So that's really the one thing, is we want to keep the receivers out of, like, space. If we let them catch the ball in space, they can make people miss. They're fast. They're kind of small. Agile, and they do have running backs too. If we can stop the running game, we can stop that. Make Noah Vedral throw downfield and beat you in the pocket is really what we want to do. But we're definitely going to have to get better pressure than we did against Ohio, for sure.
And the more you make this guy run, the better. He's led the team in rushing last year a couple of times. Their run game isn't exactly that impressive. I mean, to me, just looking at their stats from last year. By the way, they finished 3-6 last year, and they played some tough teams, though. They did.
Yeah, they did. I mean, it's Big Ten in a lot of this.
It was all mistakes. Big Ten play. Yeah.
A lot of this is mistakes too. I mean, you got to look at the fact that, like I said, long returns inside the 50 and 5 turnovers. So obviously, if that kind of stuff happens, we got to definitely be on our P's and Q's as far as that goes too. So hopefully, if our special teams plays the way that we know that they do normally, and not allow some big returns and just win the turnover battle, then I think that we got a pretty good chance of being able to take this. It's just,
I feel a whole lot better about it now than when I made my prediction, and I'm going to stick with my 5-7 prediction and just hope I'm wrong, because I see a 7-5 scenario right now. And as this goes on, it could get better. Now, I've got to see this game, though. I've got to see this game before I get, too ridiculous here.
Yeah, I mean, we have to, because the other thing, when you're talking about, obviously, the schedule and everything, I mean, we play Virginia Tech at Virginia Tech. They just beat North Carolina. Wake Forest beat ODU 42-10.
Well, Virginia Tech, Florida State.
Pretty sure Boston College blanked Colgate 51-0, which, again, it's Colgate, but whatever. And Pittsburgh, those are the 4 teams. I mean, you look at Wake Forest, Boston College, Pittsburgh, NC State, Virginia Tech, these 5 teams we play in the ACC that sometimes, and most of the time, we would think as toss-up games. They all came out and represented this week, and they got their W's just like we did. And some of them in better fashion.
Florida State lost. But
to Notre Dame.
But that's what I'm saying. You didn't add Florida State. That's why I'm stopping you. You have to put Florida State in there. And they lost in overtime, and they missed a field goal that was completely makeable, totally makeable field goal, and they lost.
True.
They lost in overtime. So, and with a mistake at the end, and I know if ifs and buts are candy nuts, we all have a Merry Christmas. It doesn't matter. Notre Dame won the game in the first overtime, and that's that. But they came back in that game. They were way down in that game, and they came back enough to make this thing, to take this thing into overtime at home. And we are going to play them at Florida State. That is one of those wild atmospheres that you're going to have to endure, and a game like a Florida State could get totally brutal on the road.
Yeah. And we talked about all those teams.
Yeah, you got to have
Clemson lost.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Those are our ACC games. So I mean, realistically, when you're talking about it, I mean, right now outside of the non-conference, it's not looking pretty for any game.
No, nothing's a gimme except for maybe Georgia
Albany?
Tech, Albany. Okay, but anyways, all right, Joe. On to predictions, as promised. So, did you get my formula for how we're gonna have to figure this out? We're gonna have to lay down the rules right now for this thing. And
you might as well explain it, because I couldn't understand your text.
I knew you weren't. I told Amy. I said, this dude's gonna call me and be like, "What are you talking about? What do you mean? Explain this." So, anyways, okay, this is how it goes. You take the difference from both scores, whether you're over or under. Take the difference from your Syracuse score to your opponent's score. Add those together. If you guess the winner, you go -5. So if you had Cuse and I had Ohio, you'd get -5 tacked on because you got to guess. If you guess the winner, you should get a little extra, right? So you take the difference of both scores, add them together. If you guess the winner, it's -5. Simple. Do you understand?
I understand now, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So I did the math. Feel free to do it again. But the winner was you. You ended up with 11. The lowest score wins, by the way, obviously. You ended up with 11. I ended up with 12.
Oh, wow. That was close.
Yeah, so that's how I think we're going to do it. And I did go through the socials, and I did not find any winners with a 29-9 score.
That's the first time that Syracuse played in a 29-9 game.
Really? Because it's a weird score.
Won. That is a weird score.
29 is a weird number.
What did I pick? What was my pick?
Your pick was 32-22. Mine was 27-24.
That was close.
It was close. It was the 29 killed me, really.
Yeah.
Without the safety, I nailed Syracuse's score. So that's a tough one. But, okay, Joe, with that said, I guessed first last time. I'm going to give it to you this time. What do you got? First of all, so I've got all my predictions. I put W's and L's next to each game. So I'm just going to go on record saying that I did have them beating Ohio, but I do have them losing against Rutgers in my preseason predictions. So go ahead. Who'd you have? Did you have them winning or beating? Winning or beating? That would be the same thing. Did you have them winning or losing against Rutgers preseason? Yo, how you like this? How you like this? You like that? You like
Boom.
that? Wegmans with the blue lights coming through.
I had them beating either Rutgers or Liberty, but I think that I had them beating Rutgers, and that's kind of where I'm going to stay right now. And I am going to go 31-27.
Wow, that's
Syracuse.
a high. That's I don't think it gets that high. I could be totally wrong, but that's a higher score than I thought, because I pondered on this today, and I said to myself, I don't think it gets that high as I originally thought. And by the way, I had Rutgers winning this game preseason, but I have changed my tune. I got Cuse pulling this thing out 20-14.
Oh, barn burner, huh?
Yeah, right. That's just how I feel it's going to go. Two really good defenses, a little bit of unknowns for both offenses, and I could be just totally wrong on this, but when you look back at the Ohio Syracuse game that we just watched, I mean, they only scored 29 against I would say mediocre defense. We'll watch the Bobcats throughout the year, but being at home,
that game was slowed down.
I know. But Syracuse slowed that game down a little bit too, though. They did.
Yeah,
they weren't
slowed by both of us.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
100%.
So I expect the same type of play, though. I really do. I expect the same type of thing. We talked a lot about that last year, about how that orange is the new fast stuff was. I mean, maybe it works a little bit better this year, but they're throwing hand signals to Tommy when they want him to do it, and I think they know when they want him to do it, obviously, and when not to. It's not a black and white thing where it's just going to be pedal to the metal all the time. It's a situational thing. And so I think that the games are going to be slowed down a little bit, and good. And I think that's good, obviously, because of our, the past couple of years, it's just whooped the defense's ass playing that fast. So anyway, anything else, Joe?
That's one thing you did see. That's one thing you did see this last game, was the defense wasn't tired at the end of the game.
No, they weren't even. No, not even a little bit, in my opinion. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but hands on hips. That's what you got to look for. You got hands on hips. They're starting to feel it. You got these guys just lining up and putting the knuckles in the ground. I mean, they're in good shape. So, all All right,
Either way, it's going to be exciting, bro.
It's
Either way.
It's going to be exciting. I can't wait. This is going to be, this is reminiscent of my childhood. We're going on 9 years of not playing Rutgers in football, which was in every year and we used to kick their ass, which was also fun. Yeah. But it was a good rivalry. I know we used to.
Until it came to a point where. And the funny thing is that people don't understand that Paul Pasqualoni leaving was what flipped that script. Then we started losing guys to Schiano, and that was one of the biggest things. I mean, Ray Rice, some of those guys that went to Rutgers, they were thinking about coming to Syracuse until we got rid of Pasqualoni. So
I did not know that about Ray Rice.
Still trying to break that. I mean, not saying that he was going to, but we still had a chance.
Right.
And when that firing went, we lost a lot of guys, and obviously, Greg Robinson era spoke for itself. So, excited to renew that, and I mean, yeah. And you got to look at it like this: we win on Saturday, then we're pretty much halfway to a bowl game, because we're not going to lose to Albany. Knock on wood, all the wood, whatever.
All the wood ever, yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
no,
if we
I
beat
get
Rutgers,
it. Yeah,
we're going to be 3-0 going into Liberty. Best case scenario, we can get healthy. And that's really where you want to be at. So, balls to the walls. Last game before basically Albany. And, again, we've shown in the past that we can kind of sit some guys that are hurting. And we just got to get this one done, get to 2-0.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. So, anyways, we thank all of you for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. Get over to your iOS or Android store. Download the Green Room Spotify app. Get that thing on your phone so you can get notifications when we go live, get fan feedback. You guys can go on there, chat, whatever you want. It'd be great. Thanks for hanging out. For Joe, I'm Sean. We're out.